Hello, I'm David Mitchell. I'm a researcher who's been involved in several projects associated with the Mailroom. I've been asked by the Mailroom to develop resources aimed at raising awareness of three issues that affect males in our society. Issues that affect males in ways that are generally hidden from common knowledge, yet persist in resulting in hugely negative outcomes for men themselves and also in their relationships with others in their lives. The areas covered in this series being fathering, family violence, and male victims of child sexual abuse. This initiative has been resourced through the Nelson City Council's community investment grants. Family violence is an extremely topical issue in our society, causing considerable pain for many and considerable cost in relation to prevention and intervention. The effects of family violence are widespread, affecting a wide range of family whānau members. We wish to be clear at this stage that Mailroom is entirely supportive of current efforts in prevention of family violence and the support of victims of family violence. However, this presentation, by drawing on both New Zealand and overseas research, provides a broader perspective on how family violence is generally understood in New Zealand. This presentation concludes by suggesting that through taking a wider perspective, we as a society may more effectively support stressed family whānau relationships. The available data for family violence suggests that here in New Zealand we have one of the highest rates of family violence in the world. This disturbing result can also be understood as reflecting changes in policies regarding intervention and an increased public willingness to report incidents. However, there is also no doubt that underreporting of family violence continues. This approach was developed in Duluth, Minnesota in 1981 through a number of agencies dealing with domestic conflict. The Duluth model curriculum was developed by a small group of activists in the battered women's movement, with 5 battered women and 4 men as subjects. The theory underlying the Duluth model is that men use violence within relationships to exercise power and control over their partner. This is illustrated by the power and control wheel in this slide, which gives examples of men's behaviour that seeks this end. The model's philosophy is intended to help violent men work to change their attitudes and personal behaviours so they will learn to be non-violent in their relationships. Interestingly, one leader in the original project team, Dr. Alan Pentz, has since stated that, in reflecting on the original work, in contrast to the findings, many of the men she interviewed did not seem to articulate a desire for power over their partner. She wrote later that the fact that few men ever articulated such a desire went unnoticed by me and many of my co-workers. Eventually we realised that we were finding what we had already predetermined to find. The quotations on this slide are but 2 examples of perspectives that exist alongside the Duluth model. There are many more quotations such as this. Despite criticism of the Duluth model, it is clear that the model provides an important perspective into understanding family violence. However, it should be seen as one perspective, and that there are other perspectives. Further, to ignore these other perspectives risks limiting, even undermining, both our understanding of family violence and our efforts at prevention and intervention. While family violence education, prevention and intervention is overwhelmingly framed within the constructs of men's power and control over women and men's violence towards women, there is a wealth of evidence that paints a broader, more varied understanding of the nature of family violence. Much of this extensive education is methodologically and ethically rigorous research evidence, constructed within accepted research approaches. This evidence includes findings from the internationally recognised Dunedin Multidisciplinary Health and Development Study. While the 3 headings on this slide are a simplification, they do give some indication of how family violence can be understood as not one perspective fits all cases, but there are major differences in how family violence is enacted and experienced. We are all aware of reports of brutal, torturous and homicidal actions towards partners, particularly women. These reports frequently assault our senses through focused and detailed reports in the media. While Mailroom believes in and supports all efforts in keeping victims safe and holding perpetrators of violence to account, the emphasis on intimate terrorism as being the most common face of family violence we believe to be misleading and ultimately unhelpful. This will be explained in the following slides. Our work with separated fathers makes us only too aware of the grief many of these men experience through the process of separation from their partner and often from their children. Anger is, and should be, understood as a normal, even expected part of the grief process. Grief is usually resolved through a combination of time, understanding, empathy, and other forms of support. For a range of reasons, these supports are largely absent for men and, within current approaches to intervention with frustrated and angry men, effectively withheld. These men are frequently isolated, unsupported, and have limited understanding of how best to manage themselves during this period, as well as adjusting to the changed relationship with their partner. Inevitably, their grief remains unresolved and anger persists, even deepens. The wheel in this slide, in contrast to the Duluth Power and Control wheel, surfaces this distress. Indeed, we are continually amazed at how most men in this situation, experiencing continual negation of their lived reality of grief, demonstrate the resiliency that they do. Current approaches in understanding and responding to family violence focus almost exclusively on men's violence towards women, and the often brutal, torturous, and repetitive nature of this violence. Mailroom certainly condemns this violence without reservation. However, to continue to use examples of this extreme form of violence as typical of family violence overall is not supported by international research. International research consistently frames the majority of cases of family violence or intimate partner assaultive behaviour as mutually assaultive. The internationally regarded Dunedin longitudinal study is but one of many methodologically and ethically rigorous research projects that support this finding, that intimate partner assaultive behaviour is by far the most common form of family violence, and the responsibility for the perpetration of this violence is shared by both partners. A large part of Mailroom's daily work is in supporting men and whānau in the area of family violence. In addition, Mailroom, through formal research projects, has surveyed over 100 men and conducted focus groups with a further 45 men to surface their understandings, experiences and suggestions in moving forward in this area. Despite Catriona McLennan's statement repeated on this slide, Mailroom has found that men are concerned about family violence and do want to be involved in finding solutions. Indeed, almost all of the men who were approached to participate in the projects volunteered their time. This included men who had perpetrated violence as well as other participants. However, as can be seen from a collation of the results on this slide, they see the problem and the potential solution as different to current approaches.
The belief that men are reluctant to step up and take responsibility for reducing family violence, as portrayed in the image on the slide, is a myth. Mailroom has found that if men are approached and listened to in a respectful manner, they are very willing to share their views, suggestions and insights. Really, to not include the insights of men in the area of family violence seems grossly counterproductive. We really do need to do better. If you want any further information, either as a professional working with males or as an individual seeking support for yourself or for family whānau members, please contact Philip at the Mailroom. Mailroom offers one-to-one and group support, as well as recommended referrals for males in the areas such as separation coaching, family violence, including supporting those that are served with a police safety order, sexual abuse or sexual addictions. There's no charge for these services, and the services are available 24/7. Mailroom also offers seminars, speakers, presentations and research advice and expertise. Thank you very much for listening.